Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And what a weekend it was. A Memorial Day weekend for wrestling fans. Absolutely one to remember. A very intriguing pay-per-view and PLE from AEW and WWE respectively. Whole bunch more happening on the TV programs this week. Specifically NXT, which is pretty crazy. We don't really dive into NXT too much on this show, but we will definitely dive in today. As always, welcome to the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. Follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, Instagram Juicy Wrestling Closet. You can find the Juice Box on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, juicysteen.podbean.com, and now on YouTube at JuicySteen. If you listen to it on Spotify or on Apple Podcasts on iTunes, if you can rate and review the show, please, that would really help the show grow forward. Additionally, we're on YouTube. The episodes, when they get uploaded, are kind of sporadic. I mean, we are up to 78 episodes, and by the time the 81st episode aired live in the regular RSS feed, it took another 3 days for 79, 80, and 81 to all be uploaded at the same time to YouTube. So kind of a hodgepodge of how that kind of integrates itself with the YouTube RSS feed integration, but I am just thrilled that it does get uploaded to YouTube. And as I've stated before, definitely doing some internal work, trying to figure out some inner workings for the video portions of YouTube that will eventually be coming for the Juice Box here as time progresses. No definitive date on that. We're just working behind the scenes. I've got some people I'm reaching out to, commissioning and talking, discussing ideas, and of course the interns here at the Juice Box working around the clock to potentially get some video content up and running, at a rate that we can be appreciative here in the Juice Box. So that will eventually happen, but for now, audio only. But never fear, we will definitely get some more intriguing stuff going as time passes on. We will probably strictly just run through the recap of King and Queen of the Ring leading into Monday Night Raw this past week, and then conclude with Double or Nothing and what happened on that show, in addition to what we followed up with on Dynamite. And as I said earlier, we'll absolutely touch on what happened on NXT this week, which had one of the higher viewerships for that program in a while. And it's rivaling AEW, so, they talked about the war, the Wednesday Night War, when it was NXT and AEW Dynamite going head-to-head, and then NXT decided to go to Tuesdays, and they were like, oh, well, look at that, AEW won, And then the one time AEW was on Tuesday, they had Undertaker and John Cena and Cody Rhodes all showing up on NXT. But, now they don't really need that. They've got plenty of firepower for the NXT brand to keep up with what AEW's got going on. So, and of course, Raw, SmackDown, flying per usual. And we got a couple of good, interesting storylines as we head into, let's see, as of this recording and airing here on May 31st, tomorrow is the first day of June. But within 2 weeks, we've got Clash at the Castle in Glasgow. And then 2 weeks after that, we've got AEW presents Forbidden Door, of course, with New Japan Pro Wrestling integrating themselves into that pay-per-view. And Forbidden Door is going to be an interesting show. Like I said, we'll talk and touch on all those topics here in a little bit. Let's just dive right in. King and Queen of the Ring. I don't normally get much correct in the realm of, quantity over quality predictions that I would get correct in any given PLE, but for once, 5 for 5. The Juice Box goes 5 for 5 in the King and Queen of the Ring predictions. Honestly, it was somewhat predictable, but the King of the Ring was kind of, a lot of people did think Randy Orton was going to pull it off and go against Cody at SummerSlam, and I kept stating, and I will continue to state, if Randy Orton has a match against Cody at SummerSlam, the King of the Ring is not needed for that, and we definitely saw that come to fruition here at the King and Queen of the Ring. Let's get into the whole show. Of course, Liv Morgan defeated Becky Lynch by way of pin to win the Women's World Title. Of course, there was a little bit of a Dom Mysterio interference-ish type thing. There was a chair placed in, but maybe the intentions weren't there. But Dom did make it clear that he flew all the way out to Saudi Arabia to prevent Liv from winning, yet Liv did win. And then, I guess we can play a little bit of what happened, King and Queen of the Ring, and, deal with what happened on Raw at the same time. As we got to Raw, we, of course, had the cage match between the two, a rematch again, Liv versus Becky, and wow. So we had the JD McDonough, Braun Strowman thing, which turned into Dom Mysterio getting slammed into the cage door, Becky Lynch getting knocked out from that, and Liv Morgan escaping, retaining the championship. But the most intriguing portion was the kiss on the ramp between Liv Morgan and Dom Mysterio. Now, I will say, it wasn't as if Dom Mysterio gave the pullback, Seinfeld term, but he absolutely didn't seem like he was fully invested in the kiss with Liv. But I think that's partially in the story. I believe that what they're going to play is, Dom wanted, I guess in a roundabout way, wanted Liv to win, but is going out of his way to say that he doesn't. And I think that's going to end up costing him and everything that he, holds dear, a.k.a. Mommy, when she inevitably comes back. And the kiss, I think, is going to be more of, yeah, he wanted it to happen, but he's not going to show or allow anybody to see that he wanted it to happen. He looked pissed that, the smooch happened. And Liv was, all about it, but it didn't seem like Dom really was. So I think they're going to play off that for sure. But that's how it goes. Becky Lynch, who knows? The rumors have been swirling. I don't know where they're really coming from about Becky Lynch maybe being a free agent or just her not being on TV for a while. Even in, just circles of WWE, like, is she taking some time off? Is she legitimately going to be a free agent? I think as long as Seth Rollins is in WWE, which I think will be arguably for the rest of his career, I don't see why Becky Lynch would ever leave. So, to me, I think, if anything, she takes some time off, and that'll probably be the end of that. I think she'll eventually make her return at some point. Maybe this is the final piece of her being a full-time performer. That could be something I would see happening, but I don't see her going to AEW. Even with Mercedes Moné, and we'll discuss her in a little bit. even with her going to AEW, I don't think that it means that there necessarily has to be a huge bag waiting for Becky, and if Becky's going to even make that transition. So we'll see what happens, but very intriguing result there with Liv Morgan winning the title at the PLE, retaining it in a cage match, having the storyline chaos with Dom. I think it's going to lead to a crazy, crazy SummerSlam potentially, where we could see Liv Morgan versus Rhea Ripley with Dom Mysterio as the referee. How insane would that be? You want to talk love triangle? Whew, that is what I'm here for, here in the Juice Box. We had the triple threat match for the Intercontinental title. I predicted this one correctly as well. Sami Zayn retains against Bronson Reed and Chad Gable. Otis, which I kind of predicted, cost Gable a little bit of a mishap on the outside. So Sami retains, and it something else here, it looks like eventually we're going to get Otis, I guess turning on Chad Gable, but these rumors, Chad Gable, apparently his contract is up within a week. I don't think we're going to necessarily see him in AEW anytime soon. I think this is purely just what's happening, and then I'm sure they'll get a silent deal done, and they will be able, Gable to, re-sign him and have him continue what's going on here with Otis and the Alpha Academy, as it were, until inevitably, I still think as long as Gable's a part of WWE, we'll get a shot with the Creed brothers and some sort of Team Gable thing. But I think that's coming up. I think that's inevitable. And I don't think it was time for Sami Zayn to lose. The same reason I didn't think Gunther was going to lose King of the Ring. I just think, Gunther was such a dominant champion for the Intercontinental Championship. There's no need for him to lose that title and then just lose everything after the fact. Same with Sami Zayn after he wins the title off of Gunther. I don't think it was necessarily time to have him lose that title so quick. So, who's to say who the next challenger is? Of course, we got Glasgow, Clash of the Castle. We'll see what all transpires there. I don't believe outside of the world title match, which is Drew McIntyre challenging Damian Priest for the title. That is the only title match actually announced thus far. The only match announced for Clash of the Castle, Glasgow. So we'll see what they end up coming up with, but I'm sure Sami Zayn will have a match there. Who knows who it'll be against? Nia Jax gets Queen of the Ring, defeats Lyra Valkyria. A great little story for Lyra, but it was never going to happen. A perfect utilization of the heel winning the crown here, and Nia is a great queen to have. I think it's a solid choice. She's been on one hell of a run recently. And, as we get to it with Gunther, as he won King of the Ring, defeating Randy Orton in a little over 21 minutes. So both of these matches and how they turned out, I believe that the news came down as I was recording last week, but the winners of the King and Queen of the Ring, respectively, would get the World Championship opportunity at SummerSlam for whatever brand they are on. Now, you look at it, Nia Jax is on SmackDown, so it were to seem that, Bayley would be as long as Bayley's still champion by SummerSlam, a couple months away, that you'd assume that Nia Jax gets that title match against her. Of course, Bayley could lose the title in between now and then. Gunther, of course, on the other side, as I stated, Randy Orton winning, he doesn't have to win to go against Cody, or it just never needed to be that. So I don't think Randy Orton needed to get a victory here, but he's a solid opponent for Gunther to beat, and he did. So I think Gunther now is in play for whoever the World Heavyweight Champion is by the time we get to SummerSlam. It could be Priest. It could be Drew McIntyre. It could be someone that wins Money in the Bank in July that cashes in by then. We could see a triple threat by then of a Drew, Punk, Gunther. There's a lot of moving parts here. Braun Strowman seems like he could be interested in a world title opportunity, but of course you got to earn that. A lot of different pieces moving in and out of Raw, and that's what I like about the Triple H booking, as it seems. There's never just one guy challenging. The pieces going back and forth. The more different pieces of a story that are available, the more unpredictable each episode of Raw can be. I always say navigating avenues, stuff like that. Gunther, Drew McIntyre, Braun Strowman, all seemingly are presenting a threat to Damian Priest. McIntyre gets the shot, guaranteed, in 2 weeks. Gunther gets a shot at the world title no matter who's champion on August 3rd. Braun Strowman could easily find his way into a world title opportunity at any point from now until August 3rd. It could be Gunther and Braun Strowman at SummerSlam, which I kind of would be interested in. That would be a hell of a hoss fight. But again, the unpredictability of having multiple challengers, and again, I didn't even mention CM Punk, but multiple competitors that have a chance to get their hands on a title, get their hands on whoever is champion. So I'm here for it. I'm here for all the moving pieces. As we get to Cody Rhodes defeating Logan Paul, defend the undisputed WWE title successfully, as I figured and as I predicted. We had a great camera shot, a drone shot, circling around Logan Paul as he was on the top rope, diving through the outside through an announce table. Just an amazing camera shot. Kevin Dunn, eat your heart out. A slightly predictable King and Queen of the Ring, but I felt that the show was good. Predictability and how predictable a show can be any given week, it doesn't necessarily mean that the show's bad because it's predictable. Of course, WWE recently has been incredibly unpredictable, and that's really what you want, to be honest. So it's nice having a mix of, I don't know what's going to happen, but I seemingly could guess, and it's not going to come off as crazy, and even if it is predictable, there's like 5 different options that are predictable, and you don't really know. And then whenever they kind of pull the rug out from under you, they give you something you're not really expecting. They add a little nuance to it. They make predictable unpredictable. So Triple H really being a strong booker of the year, maybe, as we move forth halfway through 2024. As we go over Raw, some stuff that happened, like I said, Braun Strowman and JD McDonough having their problems, which kind of integrated themselves into the main event, unfortunately for Becky. Braun Breaker continues to ruin everything, including matches, promo segments. We'll see what Braun Breaker has, in his future. There's a chance I think you see a Braun Breaker Adam Pearce interaction soon. I don't know if you'll see a match necessarily, but I think Braun Breaker is pissing off the wrong people in power. But I'm here for it. I'm a huge Braun Breaker guy. He is one hell of a talent, and I think that the sky's the limit for him. I'd love to see him get a shot at Cody. That's the other little nuance here. I don't know what Cody's role will be in the Clash of the Castle PLE in Glasgow. We'll have to see. But I'd like to see Braun Breaker in a prominent match. Maybe he'll win Money in the Bank. That's a little early to start speculating, but who knows? It all depends on who's in it, of course, and who. I mean, I guess they'll qualify, but I think Braun Breaker, maybe an LA Knight, those are the kind of guys I would be looking out for to potentially win Money in the Bank, assuming they are involved. So nothing really else that is worth discussing in length. I kind of went over all the major beats here. Like I said, Gable and his contract kind of interfering with the Otis thing. Although I think that's going to come to a head and we're going to get a resolution regardless of that contract. Liv and Becky main eventing in a cage, and we get the insane ending, which apparently, it didn't air on the main USA feed. It went to it went to black, and you saw whatever show was on USA instead of the very dramatic ending with the kiss heard around the world. So can't wait to see what's going on. A lot of Wyatt 6 Uncle Howdy interactions via QR code and random I don't even want to say promo, just vignettes or what have you. I thought we might see him at the PLE King and Queen of the Ring, maybe after Clash of the Castles, where we get an interaction for Uncle Howdy, whoever he decides to attack first. If he's gonna go straight into something, as strict as a program with someone, or the Wyatt Six in general, what their roles are gonna be. I've been saying it pretty much all show. A lot of moving parts, and it really does add the unpredictability to the show. So we'll see where that, we'll see where that lands us going forward. But I would say overall, King and Queen of the Ring, a solid show. It did what it needed to do. It was 5 solid matches, title defense, title changed hands, new King and Queen crowned, and we have the stipulations setting up SummerSlam, which I think is really a solid stipulation to have. It adds stakes. It's an important piece. And look at, this show and yours truly, 5 for 5 on predictions. I wasn't as great with the predictions for Double or Nothing, but we will absolutely get there. So yeah, but one more little note as we talk about Clash of the Castle in Glasgow. Of course, the big piece here is CM Punk. He is the wild card here. Drew McIntyre even posted a photo, Damian Priest walking into Glasgow, in parentheses, except without the aura, and it was John Cena at One Night Stand 2006. I gently responded with the photo of Edge after he speared John Cena, leading to Rob Van Dam winning the match, and said that was CM Punk in Glasgow, because I think even if Drew were to have this match in hand and look to easily win this match against Priest, don't think for a second that even though it would be an incredible moment for Drew to win in Glasgow after the first loss at Clash of the Castle, after the non-win at the rebound COVID Mania, even after winning the title and losing it within a couple minutes at WrestleMania this past year, I think he could win the title at Glasgow, but I just as easily think that CM Punk could cost him, which would set up a match at SummerSlam for the two. And then I guess Gunther could take on Priest or somebody else at SummerSlam. But I think CM Punk is the perfect caveat here to interrupt what's going to happen with Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. But yeah, 5 for 5 on predictions. Very intrigued. Seemingly some seeds. I'm gonna dive through my Twitter just to kind of recap some other stuff I may have missed from the show. Seems like some potential seeds were planted with Logan Paul and Corey Graves. Dare I say a match between the two if Corey Graves is cleared and Logan Paul's not U.S. champ? Or even if he is U.S. champ, who knows? Would be interested to see how that would turn out. But of course, we get the double or nothing. We had 2 huge shows this past weekend. AEW Double or Nothing. This is a long-ass show. I don't normally care, especially with it being on a holiday weekend. It wasn't too bad, but the show ended past 12:30, which is kind of frustrating. A lot of great stuff. There's a lot of interesting pieces of business here. I'm sure we're going to touch on it. Dynamite, of course, had some interesting pieces of business. We had a huge injury take place at this at Double or Nothing that I don't know if it would be avoided, but it just never should have gotten to where it was. But my predictions were not as great. Let's see. If I go through all of this, let's see, 1, 2. Oh man, yeah, not looking great. I think I had 5 or 6 correct out of the 10, so not great. I mean, that would get me into the Baseball Hall of Fame, but the Juice Box going 5 for 5 for 1 PLE, just a little bit underwhelming for the following pay-per-view. But Will Ospreay gets the international title from Roderick Strong in a fantastic match, as we knew it would be. And so I'm going to, again, pair this with what happened on Dynamite. Ospreay ends up winning the most chaotic match I think I've ever seen on Dynamite, which had 9 different guys out of a potential 21, including Jay White, Mystico, Claudio, Leo Rush, Pac, Ospreay, of course, Shota Umino, Hechicero, Orange Cassidy. Just a massive amount of talent, great wrestling talent. This is a wild match where it's a gauntlet. Normally in gauntlet matches, it's you get a guy one-on-one and the loser, is done. You get another guy coming out. This is just one-on-one, and then at random intervals, there's a clock that runs down, and you get the next guy, and you could have as many people in the ring. And it was 9 people all at one time. The first pinfall or submission gets the win, and Will Ospreay gets that. So Will Ospreay will go up against Swerve Strickland, who retained his AEW World title, in a one-on-one match for the AEW title at Forbidden Door. And I posited this little nugget last week where I said it should happen at Wembley, but this seems like it could happen sooner than that. Will Ospreay should win the international title and should absolutely try to unify that title with the AEW World Championship. Therefore, just condensing the titles just by 1. You still have the Continental title, and that's fine. And if you have that, that's great. That's just one. Because even on Dynamite this past week, Tony Schiavone mentioned the Continental instead of the International, and said, kind of put it within the storyline of the EVP, saying, boy, I hope they didn't hear that. Got to make sure we get what we're supposed to say correct. So I think AEW also knows that there's absolutely too many titles. But in 94, Sting, Ric Flair, one was the International World Champion, one was the WCW Champion. They unified the titles at Clash of the Champions in June of 94. And then you get, of course, one title, and it's Hogan Flair at the following show. I think if you do the same type of deal here, the International Championship and the AEW title, if you unify them by having Will Ospreay win it, because I don't see Will Ospreay losing clean to Swerve Strickland. Of course, either of these guys could lose, but I don't foresee them losing clean outside of Ospreay winning the championship. Like I said, hopefully would unify the titles, and then who knows where we go from there. Maybe he walks into Wembley as a world champion, but little too early to tell there. But I love the Swerve Strickland match. He got the win over Christian, and of course on Dynamite got his revenge on Killswitch by beating him and then clipping a lock of Killswitch's hair. Really going back and forth with the patriarchy, so it's nice to see that he got his revenge. Swerve Strickland, though, I was kind of talking about it last week that I think he's a better challenger than champion. All depends on who the champion is and who he can go against, but now he seems like the challenger, even though he's AEW World Champion, as he goes into Forbidden Door against Will Ospreay. I think that's going to be one hell of a match. But like I said, and I know we're not doing predictions today, but I think Will Ospreay should absolutely win the AEW World title at Forbidden Door. Some of the other interesting pieces here, of course, MJF returns. Very similar gear to what Triple H wore in 2002 at Madison Square Garden after his surgery and his big return. A nice little homage there. He also MJF got a tattoo saying "Bet on yourself" with a poker chip with the AEW logo in the middle of it on his calf. Is a genius idea because, one, no one's ever going to see the tattoo because he wears long boots, and he always could just wipe out the AEW if he ever went somewhere else, and it still just says "Bet on yourself," which is absolutely apropos for Maxwell Jacob Friedman. But a traditional promo, him coming back, and then he goes and hits Adam Cole where it hurts. And that was it. It was kind of a Dynamite segment on a pay-per-view. I think it could have worked on a Dynamite instead, and you could have popped a bigger rating with a potential MJF appearance, but he will be on next week's Dynamite, apparently, as advertised. And I feel as if, even though that was a solid, segment, Adam Cole doesn't seem like he's ready to wrestle yet, so hopefully they just run their Wembley match back. I don't know. I don't know what the state of it is, but it just sucks that Cole getting injured, I feel like, really, really destroyed all this momentum from the initial Adam Cole MJF storyline that was so hot last summer. And it was such a great, great angle that they played. And after all that, and now we're relegated to a 15-minute segment on pay-per-view instead of a potentially huge match at a future pay-per-view, but I think we'll get there because for now it looks like Roosh and MJF have a score to settle. I don't know when that'll take place, but Roosh absolutely threw his hat into the ring, his proverbial hat into the ring for a interaction with MJF, so we'll see how that transpires. But Unified World Trios titles, the Bang Bang Gang retain over Death Triangle, which I did not see happening, but it did. Not too much else to say there. Jay White was involved in that gauntlet match on Wednesday and, looked great in there, but did not win. Only one winner could have retained it or gained the win there. Timeless Toni Storm defeated Serena Deeb in a nice little match to retain her championship. Interested to see who her next opponent will be. A lot of that, though. It's interesting to see who else is going to get these opportunities. There's so many different women that are just not being featured heavily or at all. Again, I mentioned it last week. Thunder Rosa, Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, Hikaru Shida, Nyla Rose. Mariah May's been kind of getting in there, but until I see her in a match for a title on the line, we got Sky Blue this past week, but we knew that was futile considering they kind of promoted a Forbidden Door match ahead of the match on Dynamite, which I felt was an interesting way to go about things, because we're going to get definitely Monet, but I think she's going to be in a match against, I want to make sure I get this clear here, Stephanie Vacour. If that's pronounced incorrectly, please reach out. The New Japan Strong Women's Champion. Seems like that match is going to happen, and we kind of already knew that ahead of time. But they had to have the match between Sky and Mercedes, which I thought was decent. But Mercedes gets the win on Dynamite. And Mercedes, of course, as we talk back to Double or Nothing, gets the win over Willow Nightingale. It was a nice match. It was nice to see Mercedes get this moment after all this time not actually wrestling. And, of course, the turn of Stokely Hathaway and Chris Statlander on Willow Nightingale. It absolutely seems like they are going to be a force to be reckoned with. Now, Chris Statlander is someone I'd like to see getting involved more, and I think we'll get a program with her and Willow. Chris Statlander is a very underrated wrestler. I think she's gotten a lot better on her mic work. She's not just the alien that boops people's noses. I think she's been taken more seriously, so it's nice to see that she's going to seemingly get a better chance at something. Again, along with Stokely Hathaway, I think the sky is the limit for Chris Statlander. Orange Cassidy defeated Trent Beretta, and then this past week on Dynamite, the offer was there for a contract, and Don Callis offered the contract to Orange Cassidy, ripped it up right in Don's face, but Trent Beretta was behind him, ends up being the guy that signs with Don Callis. They do the best friends hug. You got to give them what the people want, and they do the cutout, the zoom out shot like they do for best friends, but it was with Don Callis and Trent Beretta, and then Don Callis's foot is placed on Orange Cassidy's limp, bloody, beaten down body in the ring. A great visual, solid storytelling. So it was nice to see that. I was kind of shocked. I really thought Orange Cassidy was going to have that, but not how it was meant to be. Chris Jericho defeated Hook and Shibata to retain the FTW title. Yep. But then we did get Chris Jericho with the learning tree. And it was called TV Time, which, here's the thing. I stated this before. I have no problem with Chris Jericho. For the most part. I have a problem with him. Now, I understand it. It's not that I don't get that his shtick is literally saying that everybody loves him when it's very clear everybody hates him. A segment called TV Time. It's the learning tree. It's very Chase U mixed with like delusional Bob Backlund to an extent, with Big Bill as the heater. Of course, Brian Keith seems to be a portion of this now. The bounty hunter, on Dynamite saying that they don't respect Jericho and how dare you. But Hook comes out. Samoa Joe kind of involves himself there. And I feel like we might get Hook and Joe versus Brian Keith and Jericho. Maybe a Big Bill and Jericho. Maybe we get a 6-man. A lot of different options that AEW could go with there. But who knows where they actually end up. I just have a problem with Chris Jericho literally taking up so much TV time. If there's a resolution, a solid ending that I cannot foresee, then I will say what Stat Guy Greg says. Shout out Greg from the Cheap Heat podcast. Let it play out. So I will let it play out. But I don't know how many more pay-per-views I can let it play out with Chris Jericho continuously winning and winning and winning and seemingly not getting anybody else other than himself over. That's my only issue. So we'll see. John Moxley defeated Rocky Romero on Dynamite in an Eliminator. So I think we're getting more of the Eliminator type stuff for this IWGP title. As Forbidden Door gets closer, I think we'll get... I mean, clearly he's going to defend it, but who knows who it'll be against. But on Sunday, he did defeat Konosuke Takeshita in a solid match, in another Eliminator match. But Don Callis took that L, added Trent Beretta. So who knows how big the Don Callis family is actually going to get. Forbidden Door is going to be an interesting show. CMLL, New Japan, of course, the Stardom women seemingly going to be involved. I'm just curious to see who... I'm glad that Will Ospreay won the gauntlet match to face Swerve, so Swerve wasn't going to just automatically face a New Japan wrestler. Leave that to Moxley, who is the IWGP champion. He could easily face an AEW talent for the IWGP title, but I think it'd be more intriguing to see him go against a New Japan wrestler. But we'll see. We shall see. Let's get into some more chaos. This was a wild one, an unfortunate ending, of course, but Adam Copeland defeating Malachi Black by referee stoppage, the barbed wire steel cage match for the AEW TNT title. Oh, man, all I could see and all I could refer to during this match was Halloween Havoc 97. The exact same building that Double or Nothing 2024 took place in. Hogan, Piper, steel cage, but Macho Man Randy Savage is on top of the cage, going to deliver a blow to Piper, and basically plummets like 90-degree angle right on his legs. Both on it, like no support by anything else. He lands immediately on his legs, practically looks like he blows his knees out, has to have surgery, and really is never the same competitor ever again. Copeland, with Malachi Black on a table, goes to the top of the cage, seemingly to do a splash. I think that was the move, or maybe an elbow. Hesitates and thinks about it and second guesses himself, seemingly in the air as he's going down to hit the elbow or splash or whatever, and basically lands right on his legs the same way. Broke a tibia, and he'll be out for 4 to 6 months. I know there's a discourse of like Tony Khan, shouldn't allow his wrestlers to do spots like this, but Adam Copeland's his own man. If they plan out a spot, I'm sure that it's okay. It's just a thing that happened. Like, I think it's very conceivable and not crazy. Hey, not crazy. That Tony Khan could have been like, yeah, I trust you in the ring. Go do a splash off the top of the cage. I believe in you. I think you could pull it off. And I think he could have pulled it off. But as he said, it was his cockiness thinking that he could pull it off. But I just think he overthought it and second-guessed at a very awful timing and got hurt severely. So now we get the TNT title stripped from Copeland, and over the course of the next couple of weeks, we will be getting... so here's what happened. We had the Young Bucks and Okada and Jack Perry come out. They were going to reveal that Jack Perry would be actually awarded the TNT title. And actually Christopher Daniels, who had been recently fired by the Young Bucks, came out. Apparently, Tony Khan has appointed Christopher Daniels as the interim EVP in place of Kenny Omega, who, of course, out with diverticulitis. I think actually got surgery recently, so get well soon, Kenny. Seemingly a Nick Aldis, Adam Pearce role for Christopher Daniels, and I really like it. I think he's a solid figure for that, and outside of saying Friday Night Dynamite, as much as it's nice to roll off the tongue, and I think he said it with such confidence that I truly believe it's Friday Night Dynamite, even though it's actually Friday Night Rampage this week, we will be getting a bunch of different qualifying matches, and we will get a ladder match at Forbidden Door for the AEW TNT title. So I'm assuming multiple competitors will be in that match. 3, 4, 5, 6 guys maybe. Who knows? But I think it'll be a great, fun, insane match. Jack Perry could still win it, though. So we'll see. I have a feeling Christian could get involved, though. Who knows? Maybe Christian will end up winning the ladder match. It's so sad. It's what I wanted. It was Christian and Adam Copeland in a ladder match at some point, of course, but it doesn't seem like we're going to get that, at least not for the time being. So, unfortunate for Adam Copeland. Hopefully, assuming he'll get surgery, and hopefully he returns healthier and stronger. But that's a very tough injury, a tough way to have it happen, too. Like I said, I think he could have pulled through and hit a move that maybe he wasn't confident in, but decided against it, and unfortunately it cost him. But I don't know. I like the Casino Gauntlet match as well, like I said from the other episode of Dynamite there. I mentioned Swerve Strickland gets the win, retains against Christian Cage. He goes against Will Ospreay, of course, at Forbidden Door. And Anarchy in the Arena. This is a staple of Double or Nothing, and I do enjoy it. The Elite get the win over Danielson, Darby, and FTR. Oh, man. Everybody got brutalized here. There was an exploding chair. We had another successful prediction here. We had the new Reebok Pump Young Bucks shoes fitted with thumbtacks on the bottom. Double super kick to Darby as he was strung above the ring, upside down like a piece of meat, or as I referred to it, as Crush in his match with Randy Savage at WrestleMania 10 in the Falls Count Anywhere match at MSG, where he gets Savage gets the pinfall on Crush and hoists him upside down on some rope backstage. Didn't really work as well as it did here at Double or Nothing, but the sentiment was still the same. Brutal match though. Thumbtacks. Oh man, it was just brutal. We did have in the FTW rules match, instead of thumbtacks, instead of Legos, we had dice, which might be the most underrated, worst thing to land on, I would wager. That seems like an awful thing to land on. But it happened. But yeah, the Anarchy in the Arena match was crazy. I really do like it. I'm kind of looking forward to Blood and Guts eventually here soon. I'm not sure. I would assume with Anarchy in the Arena going to the Elite, that you get the Elite and Blood and Guts, and eventually, if that happens, you get a solid team to take them on and take them out, but who knows how far down the line that is. I think that's the next necessary step. But overall, man, I think Double or Nothing was a fun show. I think the Dynamite after the fact kind of set up some stuff as well. Like I said, with the Don Callis, Orange Cassidy, Trent Beretta thing, it's very intriguing now that it's the other way of what I predicted, and we kind of get... Maybe Trent Beretta gets a little bit of a boost of momentum. Some juice is worth the squeeze here. We shall see where that all goes. But the show in general, like I said, Double or Nothing was pretty solid. It ended right after 12:30. It was way too long. So hopefully Forbidden Door is a quick and concise 3 to 3.5 hours. That's fine. As long as the matches deliver, which they always do for the most part on AEW pay-per-views. So I can't really fault them too much for that. I'm just going to go through the rest of the shows that I kind of live tweeted just to see if I missed anything throughout the past weekend. But there were so many interesting pieces here. Like I said, it sucks that Adam Copeland got the injury. Oh my, I posted this, but Tony Khan in the Anarchy in the Arena, of course, we did have the set on fire spot where Jack Perry got lit on fire by Darby Allin. That I don't know how I could have forgot that. That was an amazing, quite the sight to see. And just wow. Quite honestly, wow. But Tony Khan getting beat up and kind of taken out as the fire was hitting Jack Perry. Tony Khan stopped, he dropped, and he rolled down the ramp in a hilarious fashion that I now have in GIF form. So anytime you'd like to see that, check me out at Juicy Steen on Twitter. But yeah, pretty much everything else, pretty solid stuff. Like I said, I feel like the weekend was a pretty solid weekend overall. And, 2 weeks from now, we've got Clash the Castle in Glasgow, where I think CM Punk is going to heavily be involved. Regardless if Drew McIntyre walks out as champion or not. Maybe he doesn't because of Punk, but we shall see there. Let's get into the NXT real quick. I wanted to mention this, and we never really got to, but it's outside of the actual AEW and WWE realm. Who would Roxanne's opponent be at NXT Battleground in a couple of weeks? It's none other than TNA Knockouts champion Jordynne Grace, which, I mean, she showed up at the Rumble, and it seems like TNA and WWE have built a little bit of a relationship. And it's for the better. It's absolutely for the betterment of pro wrestling. It's really funny with the Forbidden Door, being NJPW and AEW, CMLL, Stardom. And they have a show dedicated to that, thing, that type of interaction. Conceivably, WWE's doing a better job with, quote, Forbidden Door. They don't have to promote it as a pay-per-view. And I know AEW has New Japan guys and girls on there all the time. I'm just saying. To have the TNA Knockouts champion just come on in, getting a title shot at NXT Battleground, I think is amazing. And then the end of the show, we get Ethan Page showing up. Apparently it was the one that was attacking some of those guys backstage recently in NXT, and he looked great, looked inspired, and apparently he signed to WWE, but then he kind of said he was not signing to anybody, which is intriguing considering I believe he was supposed to be at the RWA show on June 15th, so I'm not sure if that's going to still happen or not, especially if he's signed to WWE. I would wager it won't happen, but man, that was pretty interesting. The fact that we get this Forbidden Door, I think it leads to an opportunity for more guys and girls to go in between TNA and WWE. All I want is AJ Styles to have one more match in a huge TNA spot, whether that's Slammiversary, whether that's Bound for Glory. Give me that. Give me TNA, the TNA theme, the I am for AJ Styles one more time. How incredible would that be? I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. Of course, Sexy Red, the one of the more popular rappers right now, she showed up to NXT, palling around with Shawn Michaels, who, I was talking about Triple H being Booker of the Year. Shawn Michaels is the Cooker of the Year. But, man, just everything going on with NXT seems to be amazing. They are absolutely, just firing on all cylinders. Like I said, the 700,000 viewers plus, pretty solid stuff for NXT, especially not being Raw or SmackDown, So that's pretty intriguing for sure. But I enjoyed pretty much everything that happened this past weekend. And this subsequent last week. Now, one more little thing. Of course, people are concerned about the Will Ospreay Swerve Strickland match. Is it happening too soon? Who's going to win? Oh, my God. Both guys can't take a loss here. Oh, my God. Exactly. all fans want generally in pro wrestling is a great match with stakes for the match that are pretty important, and the result of the match is unpredictable. That's all fans really want in the end, and I think Swerve and Will Ospreay give you that. I don't know who's going to win. The stakes are the AEW World title, and if the guy that is challenging for that title wins it, he will have 2 championships, which is a huge deal, and I guarantee you it will be a great match. So you do get all 3 of those things, and I think it really works out in your favor. So give me all that. Give me every single piece of that. I am looking forward to seeing how Forbidden Door turns out. But one hell of a wrestling week and weekend, Memorial Day. I'm not saying I'm burnt out, but it was quite a bit of wrestling. But I'm here for Clash of the Castle. Cannot wait for, I guess, NXT Battleground next week, where we get Jordynne Grace against Roxanne for the NXT Women's title. And then, of course, at the end of the month, we get Forbidden Door. So kind of spread out this upcoming June. But then, I mean, right after that, it's July 6th. We get Money in the Bank, and we're off to the races again. So whole bunch of wrestling. Always can come to the Juice Box. Throw some straws in. Get some opinions. As always, before we close out the show, follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen, on Instagram at Juicy Wrestling Closet. You can listen to this show on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, juicysteen.podbean.com, and on Spotify. Listen to it on Spotify or iTunes. Rate and review the show. Would really help it if you did. And, of course, at Juicy Steen on YouTube, the RSS feed uploading all the audio of the Juicebox podcast every single week, kind of. But they're there. They will eventually be there, all 81. And now with today's episode, 82 episodes of the Juicebox are available on YouTube. And as I said, we have interns, collaborators, myself, working round the clock to get the video portion kind of up and running, and we will get that up and running. And when it does happen, you all will find out and know. Of course, check out all the socials. That's where it'll all take place. So until then, this has been a fun week. Potentially a SIP series coming up in a couple of weeks, so keep an eye out for that. Not kind of loose details as of yet, and of course the interview has not happened yet, but people are talking, so it's absolutely in the works. So keep an eye out for that as well, and an ear open to listen. As I'm Juice Springsteen. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this past week in wrestling, and you enjoyed this episode of the Juice Box. Tune in next week as I will come through with a lot more ins, outs, everything about pro wrestling in the week that was, right here on the Juice Box. That was the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to the Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.